This is Katrina Bell coming to you live from the craft room, giving everybody in the vicinity a warning that this is a so much work project. Yes, you heard right. This is not a drill. This is a warning. This is a so much work project. Authorities have advised anybody that attempts to take on a large patchwork project to hunker down and be ready to put in the work. Back to you. Good day, fashion friends. In today's tutorial, I'm going to take this size 2X cropped duster that is also vintage and make it into a full-length patchwork duster. Stay tuned. So if you know from my previous videos, I acquired a bunch of vintage fabric and vintage fabric scraps. So I feel like I'm in my patchwork era. One of the materials that I pulled out is this very soft chevron print, and I thrifted this beautiful velvety mustard and blue dress for $5. And I also thrifted this gorgeous, also very velvety feel blazer. A few more rolls of fabric that I dug out of my fabric stash is this beautiful black velvety velour. I also found this plain dusty pink shirt that is velour. I have these pants that have these amazing prints and strips on them that I could use as trim. I have this patchwork top that I have cut up and used for other things. So I could use pieces from that. And I have this beautiful, I don't know, I call it swooshy material. Feathers, almost. I have this other kind of like watercolor, water swirly material. And I have, I'm not sure about this. This seems a little bright for me. Not sure if I'm going to use anything off of this, but I pulled it just in case. I'm looking for something to put on the back. Like, I need like a statement, something or other to put on the back. So let me dig through my tapestries and see what I can find. So I recently reorganized my fabric bins, and anything that I felt that would have been like kind of like boho style, I put all in a separate bin because I had acquired quite the collection. So I have this burgundy velour. I have this teal green velour. I have a little bit of red. This, oh, I've got some trim with some fringe. That would be good. This is a curtain that I specifically got at the bins because of the tassels. I have this red rose scarf or piece of material. I think it's more a scarf, so we'll put that in the, we're going to use that pile. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I have this tapestry that I used on something else. Oh, this is curtains too, but what is on this? This was something that I used for a costume as well. See if there's anything statement worthy on these. Not really. I don't really see anything that I could use. Darn it. Well, gosh, like, I feel like I need the statement piece on the back before I get started with anything else. Alright, well, I'm going to have to just make do with what I have and figure out something. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. I am going to utilize either part or all of this and build from there, because I love these colors, the reds, the blues, the coppers. So I'm going to use this design here as the centerpiece for everything else. Okay, here is my back piece. It is, I pressed it a little bit, it's pinned on, and now I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch, because if you look real close, this wants to come apart. So I'm going to zigzag stitch all the way around to make sure that that doesn't fray. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and lengthen this, because when I start doing the patches, I don't want to be like a separated line. Like, I don't want to work the patches to the end of this and then add more material and then add patches, because it's just not going to look like one cohesive piece. So the next thing I'm going to do is add 18 inches of material to this to make it floor length. The way I came up with that number, I measured from the bottom of the collar to the bottom of the hem, and I compared it to a denim duster that I'm working on and that is in progress, and this is about between 47 and 48 inches. So I took the 48 inches, I subtracted the 30.5 inches, and then allowing for seam allowance, blah blah blah. So I'm going to add approximately 18 inches to the bottom of this to give it the full length, and I have to make it almost like I have to have a curve to it, because I don't want it to come straight down. It has to flow out. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, what I am going to use is this t-shirt kind of knit material. It's a little thicker than what the actual duster is, but I acquired this in the multiple bins o fabric a month or so ago. And it's already been measured, and it is 60 inches wide by a little over 2 yards. I am going to use this material, and the way that I'm going to cut the pieces when I lay them out is I need 2 of them that are going to be 21 inches across. And that will cover the 2 front panels. And then I need to have it angled out so it's going to be wider than 21 at the bottom. So I need 2 pieces of that. And then the middle piece, I believe, is like 30 to 31 inches for the piece in the back. So I will have to make that 31 at the top, and then actually a little more for seam allowance. And then angle out so that way it is going to flow and not be like straight up and down. So I'm going to work on that and figure that out, and then I will be back. Okay, so I think this is right. So what I did, this is the open edge. So this is going to be in the front. This is going to be sewn along the bottom of the 2 fronts, and then I angled it that way. So the way I did that, I measured about 22 inches across to allow for seam allowance, and then I measured straight down to here, and I did like 21, 22 inches. I added a little extra because I can always trim off if I need to. And then made a mark, and then I angled my yardstick until, or no, I'm sorry, I went to the edge and I measured the length that I needed. And then I went from this mark to this mark at an angle. This is what I've cut off. So now we're going to see if I'm guessing how to do this correctly. So this is the correct way. So this will be the front. This will get sewn onto the bottom of the duster, and then this will be angled to allow to add some flowiness toward the back. And then when I make the one in the back, I'm going to make it come out this way and this way. So when I sew the two angles together, it's going to be flowy. So let's see if that's correct and hope that I don't screw this up. Okay, I actually reversed that because this is actually a size 30. This is bigger than I thought, but that's okay because people tend to like, you know, big flowy clothes. So what I did instead was those two pieces that I cut, and one side was straight and one side was angled, I actually just pinned just to see what it would look like. So I put the angled side in the opening, where the opening is, to make sure that this is going to be like nice and flowy in the front. And so this, I don't know if you can see this, this is, let me back up a little bit. So that's kind of what it's going to look like, if you can see that. So yeah, I think I like that. And all I did was just pin it on. So now I'm going to try to cut the back piece, and that's going to be basically like a trapezoid to give some volume in the back. Okay, so because I need so much material in the back, this is approximately 60 inches wide. So I unfolded it. I need 32 inches. So I put the 16 where the fold is, and then I marked 32 to there and there. So from 1 to 32, 16 is in the middle. So I marked that. Now what I'm going to do, I will take my yardstick, I will measure straight down 22 inches, and then I will angle it like I did before and draw a line from here to the angle. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. I will go straight down 22 inches and then go at an angle, and then I will probably cut a little bit extra because I would rather have more than not enough, if that makes any sense. So in essence, we are going to make a trapezoid. So it's going to go that way and that way. But I had to open my fabric because I need so much fabric, and I couldn't figure out how to cut it in half and get a trapezoid on each side. So this works better for me. So if you have a trick, you do your trick. I'm going to do it this way because this is the way it makes sense in my head. Okay, here is my trapezoid. Oh, I still need to draw my line, but you can see where I kind of did the 22 all the way around. That is not perfectly even, so I allowed a little bit extra, and then I'm going to make a line from there to there, and then I will cut out my trapezoid and pin it and see how that looks. Okay, so I folded it back in half. Now I can see what I should have done. All right, and then if you look on this end right here, I matched up these edges that are going to be cut off, and these little pieces seem to be matching up. So I folded it in half. I'm going to cut along this line and that line. There we go. Now I got it. Okay, so this is the first piece that I cut, and I folded it over because now I've decided that I want this to be a trapezoid as well. Because if I put the angle in the front, then I'm attaching an angle to a straight, and it didn't want to lay right. So I measured this piece that is missing, and then I measured it here on the corner. So I will get 2 pieces, and then I will add that triangle to these 2 pieces where the triangle is missing. I'm just gonna have to patch it in because I messed up. So I apologize for anybody that's following along and is confused. Okay, this is the first piece that I cut. This is the 2 little triangles that were missing that I cut. And see what I did? So I took the 2 straight edges and I'm going to stitch those together so that way I have a trapezoid to put on the front. Then I will have another small trapezoid to put on the other front, and then I will have the large trapezoid to put in the back. And then these angled pieces right here will be stitched together, the small to the big and then to the small. That will wrap all the way around. So it's going to make more sense here in just a minute. So let me stitch these together and I will show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is my back piece, this whole piece right here. This is the piece that will be on the right front. I know it's very hard to see because there's so much material, but that's the little piece that I inserted. Now I'm going to take this angle and this angle and I pinned it together. Now my back piece is a little higher, but that's okay. But I am going to, I think I want to match bottom to bottom and then cut off the excess, because I don't know, maybe I should pin it on the mannequin to see, to make sure that's not going to be too short in the back. Hold on.
Strike that. Reverse it. This one.
Okay, so now I have the front right piece. Here is the area that I added. Right here, this little triangle. I know it's hard to see. And I pinned it from the top all the way down, because if I just have to trim a little tiny bit right here, I'm okay with that because I don't want to lose any length in the back. And if the back area is longer than the front, I'm okay with that. So I'd rather trim off this little tiny corner than trim off the whole top, which I would have lost probably 3 inches if I would have matched it up down to here because of the size difference. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this on, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now that I have my whole extension stitched, so this is what it looks like. So this is the front, this will be the back, across the back, and then this will wrap around to the other front. And then, like I said, I might just have to cut that little tail off, but that's okay. So now I am going to pin this to the duster, the crop duster, and then stitch this on. And then I will be able to start doing actual, like, cutting patches and pinning patches. That's the fun part, right? Okay, full transparency. I had to abandon this project for about a week or 2, I think, because long story short, we rescued a dog a couple weeks ago, and we've been taking care of her and trying to keep her separated from our little dog because she's a 50-pound bully mix and our dog is 10 pounds. So we have been keeping them separated to avoid any ugliness, so to speak, just in case. And now I'm getting back to this 2 weeks later. So it may be done by fall. We are currently trying to find her a home or a foster league to take her. So, picking up where I left off, this is a little longer than, or a little wider than the actual duster. So I'm gonna have to pleat this a couple times in order for it to fit. No problem, I know how to do that. So I found the center of the long piece and put a pin in it, and then I will find the center of the duster itself and put a pin there as well. Make sure all my seams match up as best as possible. Okay, and I will pin the center of that. So now this will be even when I pin and pleat this. So that's what I'm going to work on now. Okay, so I matched up the pins in the center of each piece, the top and the bottom. I then matched up the front to the front. Now where this insert is, I am going to match that to where the side seam is, and then we're going to see how that looks, because there is a lot of material that I'm working with here. So I'm honestly not sure what it's going to look like until I get it pinned and put on the mannequin, and then I can see what it looks like. So I have a little bit of space here, so I'm going to find the center of that and pin that. And if you have done any other sewing and have watched other tutorials, you know that this is just a matter of doing a pinch pleat in between, or a couple pinch pleats depending on how much material you have, to make it fit. Alright, and then in the center here, I have a little bit of material. Do a little pinch pleat there. Okay, and here is the final result. So we're pinned here, a little pleat there. That's flat. That's the center between these two pins. And then a little pinch pleat right here. I know it's hard to see because it's black, but you get the point. I'm going to do that in the middle section, which will be the back, and then on the other side section, just the same thing. So there's a little bit of a better view, and then we'll see how it hangs. Okay, I am liking the way that this is hanging, although it is on a smaller mannequin than what the size is, but from what I can tell, it definitely is giving billowy vibes, if you can see that, by adding those little inserts. Thank you, Traci Myers, for educating us on little inserts to make things wider. Alright, I'm going to sew this on with a zigzag stitch just to make sure that it's going to be strong enough and hold up in case it gets stepped on, but or caught on anything. So I'm going to zigzag stitch on the bottom. I'm still not going to worry about that little extra piece right there. I will trim that when I get there, and then I will start creating the patches. Okay, so I'm going to make the sleeves bigger because we like big sleeves and we cannot lie. So I'm going to cut them up the center on each sleeve, and I'm going to use these pant legs that I've cut up from a previous project and use that to add into the sleeves to make them bigger. Alright, we've now opened that up, so we're going to make a nice fancy bell sleeve. Give this piece more drama. Okay, once I opened up the sleeves, the bottom portion of the sleeves from end to end are 14-ish inches. I don't want to have a seam from the pants in my sleeve. And the bottom of these pants are about 12 inches, I believe, about 11 inches. So I am going to just trim the front or the two sides I'm going to trim the two side seams away and just have a flat panel and measure from the bottom of the sleeve to the top of the sleeve on the duster to see how high I need to go. Let me make sure this front panel is going to be long enough. First. Yes, it will be long enough. So I don't have to cut into the back because I've already cut into the front on these pants. So I'm going to cut this front panel out and then cut it or fold it in half and use a pattern to make a triangle insert for the sleeves. I have the two front panels of the legs cut out, and cool thing, there's already a hem on the bottom, of course. So I'm going to use this for the bottom so I don't have to hem the sleeves, and I will make a triangle that will fit into the opening of the sleeves. Okay, I have one piece cut and pinned into place. I am going to sew these right sides together, and look how gorgeous that material is. Very nice. I am digging it. Now to do the other one. So I'm going to show you how I did this. I skipped making a pattern to save some time, and the length of the sleeve from one end of the triangle to the cuff is 24.5 inches. So I went 25 just to make sure I have a little extra up in the corner of my triangle. So what I did, so this is the opening. I folded this wrong side out, I think. No, I didn't. It'll be fine. And this is the opening on this side. So I am going to measure from the open side to the closed side 25 inches. And then I am going to come in like a half an inch because I don't really want it to come to a point. And I made a little mark, and then I just made a line to the other end. Okay, and then flip this over, and again 25 inches on the other side from the open side to a half an inch from the fold. And make a line. So that's going to give me a triangle. And in order to cut this as straight as possible, I am using my right angle and a roller cutter. Wheel blade, a roller blade, ha ha ha. Going to use a roller blade. So now I'm going to take out the pins. Open this up. And this isn't quite long enough, but that's okay. And then I will place this from the corner and follow the line. And this material likes to move, so I have to be really careful. And go up as far as possible. And then do the same thing on the other side. My blade is getting a little dull. I'm gonna have to replace that here in a little bit. All right, and same thing on the other side of the triangle. Cut up as far as possible, and then come up and finish cutting the little point right there. And I think it was right about there. All right, now I will pin this to the other arm and then stitch those on as well. Now, because I am going to use the hem of the pants as the hem of my sleeve, I'm going to start at the bottom and match those up. Match the two bottoms and pin that into place all the way up. And the same thing starting at the bottom on the other side, putting right sides together, because this may fray. And then pinning that side up both sides to get it ready to stitch. And that is what they will look like. And then this will be all the way up on the shoulder. Again, this is a plus size piece that I'm working with. And there we go. Very nice. Gosh, I love those colors. I love that print. It's just gorgeous. So something else that I dug out at the last minute are these curtain balances that I used on a previous project. And on one of them, I cut all of the fringe off of the edge. And because there's already like a patchwork pattern to them, I am just cutting like random size patches, following what is already given. And that way they're going to be like different sizes and different shapes and have different patterns in them. And because this wants to fray, I am using pinking shears to cut these pieces out. So I'm going to continue to cut some of these. I'm going to leave one that's going to be fairly big possibly, because I don't want to go too small, because that just makes more sewing. Okay, I have a lot of different pieces cut into different sizes, and now it is time to start pinning. And we'll see how this goes, and if I need to cut any more. Wish me luck. Okay, this is what I have on the back so far. That's part of it because my table isn't large enough. However, I have this floral, and I feel like I need to pull in like some sage green to kind of go with all these colors. And I don't have anything in sage green. But what I do have, please don't mind my mess, is I have some black dye, and I have some teal dye. So I'm wondering if I could make some sage green, or I'll have to get online and check my color theory, but then I also have this yellow and blue, and then maybe add a little bit of the black to it, or the purple to darken it, and see if I can make that into a sage green. If not, then I will probably try to find some at the craft store, because I feel this material is too bright for all these muted tones that I have going on. So I want to darken this a little bit, and I want to incorporate more fabrics. So let me do some research and see what I can find. Okay, so according to the RIT Dye website, I need a ½ a cup of tropical teal, which I have, 2 tablespoons of graphite, which I do not have, but I have black, so I could maybe cut that in half, and 1½ teaspoons of peacock green, which I do not have. So off to Facebook Marketplace we go, and I found a RIT tie-dye bundle that somebody is trying to sell for 50 bucks, and it has 27 tie-dye bottles, bundle of 27 RIT tie-dye bottles, and other supplies like squeeze bottles, a big pitcher, rubber bands, and soda ash. Colors include apple green, 5 bottles of sage green, scarlet, golden yellow, petal pink, purple tan ×4, Kelly green ×3, evening blue, aquamarine, sunshine orange, royal blue, wine, pearl gray, marigold, emerald, and rose quartz. Doesn't say how full they are. Some are opened and slightly used, but most are unopened. Okay, well, I guess it does. So looks like I might be picking up a big box of RIT dye. Yep, I did it. Oops. 27 bottles of dye. 27 bottles of dye in the box. 27 bottles of dye. I don't think I will ever have to buy any more dye for the rest of my life. Yeah, there's a lot here. Some of them are duplicates. Some of them have never been opened. So yeah, that was definitely worth the 50 bucks. Now, the price tag on them are from Hobby Lobby for $2.99. I don't think they're $2.99 anymore. Last bottle that I bought was on Amazon, and I think it was like $8. And I'm not sure what they run at Michael's. I'll have to look that up. Hold, please. Okay, RIT all-purpose dye. Search. Let's see. $6.99 for the liquid dye, a bottle. All-purpose liquid dye fuchsia is $9.44. Lemon yellow is $10.49. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this was a good deal. All right, so last night after I picked up the dye, it was kind of late and I couldn't really work on this project anymore. So I cut a chunk off of this tablecloth and I dyed it in the sage green. And look at that, you can see the difference. I haven't put it up against the material that I wanted to match, but it's definitely not as bright as it was before. So let's see if this is the shade that I want. I still think it's a little too bright because everything else that I have is pretty muted and dusty. And I think it's just too gray. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I don't know if I want to maybe try to re-dye it and maybe make it darker or find something else. I also have this material that I thought about using because it's got the burgundies and such. Okay, here is what I have so far. I dug through a bag of scraps that I had up here, and I found a couple random pieces that are just single pieces. I found this piece, and that's the only one that I have, unfortunately, that I know of. I'd have to dig through the bin some more, but this is what I have so far, and I'm starting to come around to the side of the skirting. And then I added another, I don't know if you can see, let me try to get this up here. I added another one of those purple rosettes on this yellow piece. And I don't know if I showed this earlier, but I cut out this purple 3D rosette and put it on the, with this purple material that I have. Two little patches I gotta add in here, and then I'm gonna start stitching some of this on. And it's gonna be, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So, all right, that's what I have so far. All right, this is what I have sewn on so far. And what I have found is that with all of this fabric pinned on, it's very, very difficult to keep the pins in place. Because of course, when you're twisting and turning while you're sewing, the pins want to come out. So what I did here at the bottom, and it's very frustrating. This is not an easy project, honestly. Fighting with the bulk of the material. So what I did, I removed some of the patches here toward the bottom, and I set them aside, and then I'll just pin them on later. So I believe that the easier way to do this is to pin it on, get an idea of what you want. See, like I'm missing a spot right there. Pin it on, get an idea of what you want, and then take, I know it sounds ridiculous, but then take everything off and sew the patches on like one at a time. Because see, this is what happens. Pins fall out, they're on the floor, I gotta pick them up, like there they are. So yeah, but this is what I have so far. I'm really digging the look, but it is difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Dealing with this bulk of material in all the different directions, but I am truly digging it so far. It's a lot of work. It's an awesome look. Just hoping that it is going to be an item that will sell, and that I didn't make a bad decision doing a plus size. Okay, after many, many hours of sewing and cutting patches, I have the back completed, and I'm starting to move around to one of the front sides. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see. Now, what I found is it's much easier to deal with all of this fabric if you do one patch at a time. So what I ended up doing was when I was sewing, so I had all the patches pinned on, and I was trying to sew and finagle the material, and of course pins were falling out and half the patches were falling off and shifting and the whole thing. So I fought with them, finally when I got to a stopping point and I was out of patches, I then decided I was going to do one patch at a time. So it was a lot of back and forth. Sew on a patch, bring it to the table, put the other patch, pin it down, sew the patch, come to the table, lather, rinse, repeat. So I'm gonna turn this around so you can see the detail that I have so far. And because this is such a large piece, I'm going to do the best that I can to try to hold it out. So that is the top, and this is the one side with all of the flare and the patches. And then there's the other side, all the way down, and there is where I'm starting to get to the other side. Okay, hopefully this is a little better. I tried, so I gotta put one little kind of triangle patch there, and then over here on this side, move this over a little bit. I hope you can see this. I know my table's in the way, but my lens is as wide as it will go. So there's the rest of the back, and then we are starting, that's a sleeve. So we are now getting around to the front. So I just kind of like went this way. I'll get a little string right there. And we are starting to go down the front and come this way, then we will come up, and then do it again on the other side. I had no idea what I was getting into taking on this project, and seeing as how I make my items to sell, I'm gonna have to sell this thing for like $500 because of all the work that was put into it. But no, I'm not, of course I'm not gonna put it at $500. But I was gonna make another one, like, you know, in a small, because this is, you know, a bigger size. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna ever do that again. Ever. This is a one of one. So there you go. Now, even though this is a plus size piece, I am going to disclose, believe it or not, that even though I am like a small creeping into a medium, thank you menopause, that I could even wear such a piece. Now, the shoulders are down to there, and for me, the sleeves are too long because I have really short arms. Lengthwise, it is definitely too long for me, but it is definitely nice and roomy, so even somebody that is like a medium or large could wear this, because the whole point of a duster is that it's big and flowy. So there you go. There's the progress. So we're just gonna keep cutting a patch, sew a patch, cut a patch, sew a patch, and eventually I will get this done. Back again. Yes, I am still working on this duster. Patchwork is beautiful, but it is a lot of work. So kudos to anybody that does patchwork on the regular, and kudos to quilt makers. I've never attempted a quilt. I can only imagine that doing a quilt is much more work than doing this, because everything has to be even and stitched and top stitched, and yeah. I'm almost over this project, but it is looking so fabulous, and I'm in too deep that I I can't stop. I cannot stop. I have to finish this project. Whether it's going to sell or not, I have no idea. How many hours do I have in it? I have no idea. I've been slowly working on it, off and on, usually spending about 2 to 3 hours at a time, doing sections. With summer, of course, there's a lot of stuff going on. I think I mentioned earlier in the video, we acquired a stray dog that we've been trying to rehome with no luck. So I don't know if she's ours at this point, but she is she's a little more work than what we're used to. What else? Oh, I took 2 weeks every evening and was preparing for 2 rounds of interviews for a new position, promotional position where I work in my corporate job. I did get that, and waiting on letters and semantics and, you know, all that process that goes with a promotion. So that will also require a schedule change, and I do not know my schedule change as of yet. Still waiting on that information. I do, however, want to share a change that I made to my craft table. I purchased the table risers for the folding tables, and my goodness, what a difference that it makes. So now the table is up to my waist instead of being at, you know, an eating level, and it has made such a difference in the ease and comfort of working. So that's a good thing. As I stated before, I have found that pinning 2 to 3 patches, depending on the size and the placement, is much easier than pinning on a whole bunch of patches and then trying to sew it. So that's what I am currently doing. I'm almost done with the bottom of one side of the front. Isn't that exciting? And then I have the whole other side and the top of the one side that I'm currently working on to finish. So again, I'm just looking at what I have, not really trying to match anything, but I'm also trying to create different directions and some overlapping and filling in as much as I can. So it does require a lot of playing around with the shapes of the fabrics. I think I'm just going to leave that. And then I also have other fabrics that I need to cut with pinking shears. I have found the best way to stitch a lot of these on is using a zigzag stitch. I started with a straight stitch, and I had a couple pieces that came loose and had to go back and restitch them. So I switched to a zigzag stitch, and we're just going to keep it at that. It's just much easier. I do change out my thread for the top stitch, but I keep black in my bobbin so that on the underside there's not a whole lot of color. Now there may be a little bit of color that comes through from the colored thread up above, but it is just much nicer with more black on the inside, so that if anybody does see the inside, it's not like a million colors. So again, I'm just clipping and pinning, and then I will stitch. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do like 1, 2, 3, 4 patches in this area, and that will finish the bottom of the right side of the garment, and then I will move to the top. Okay, I have completed from the bottom up to the waistband, or like the little hook part, and now I have the shoulder part, which will be like right here, and I have this very large space, and this is a Shein skirt, and in my opinion this is the only reason that we by Shein is for fun patterns, fun fabric maybe, and cut them up. It had fringe on it. I cut the fringe off and used it for a phone purse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down the middle, and then I'm going to put one panel on each side. So that's going to be the only symmetrical piece that's going to be on this, just because I want to use this because it's just so gorgeous, even though it's Shein. But I'm repurposing fast fashion and giving it a new purpose and a better purpose. So that's what I'm doing right now, and then I'm going to try to fit this on this shoulder piece over here, and then see where I need to fill in with patches so I don't have so much black. And then I also had cut the waistband and the, oh, I'm sorry, not the waistband. I did cut the waistband off, but the, I don't know what they're called, but let me show you. So this is the middle part where it hooks, and this is the space where I'm putting the half of the skirt. So this is the front panel of the jacket that I cut up, which is one side had the buttons and the other side had the buttonholes. And I put this all along the collar because, again, I just wanted something symmetrical around the collar as a trim piece. And I think that's why I want to use this skirt and give a little more symmetry before it just turns into funness. Is that a word? Sure. All right, I have the one side pinned on, and I really do like that. And then I think with it being on the other side, it will also look just as nice. So there's going to be symmetry just on the top with the lapel and the two sides, and that's going to help cover this area so I can get through this project much more quickly. And then I might have to put like one little patch like right here in the armpit, and then it looks like one little patch like right there by the belt. Other than that, there is the rest of the front side that is completed. So I'm going to stitch this one on, and then I'm going to start on the other side, because as I work up, if this needs to overlap, I want it to overlap because I want this to be dominant over the patches. So I'll start from the bottom and work up to the top just like I did on this side, and then add this piece on. And then if it overlaps any of the patches, then I'm better with that than the patches overlapping on to like the main piece there. So that is what that will look like. I'm making progress. I'm very tired. I probably spent 4 or 5 hours today working on this, and I'm so close to being done, but I've got to take a break. My shoulders are hurting. I need to feed my dogs and myself, and maybe just relax on the couch for a little bit. But I'm going to show you the progress. Okay. Once again, to review, this whole side is done. The whole back is done. And then I started at the bottom, worked all the way across and up the sides. See if I can back up a little bit more. Please don't judge my room. I have a very small room. Well, actually it's a big room, but it's full of a lot of stuff. And there we go. And then I'm going to turn this around and give you another view of the back and into the side. Okay, and as a refresher, this is the sorry about that. As a refresher, this is the back all the way down. Here is the bottom all the way out to the little ends. And my final few patches will go up to under the arm, and I will pin those into place first and then pin my other half of the skirt on. Matter of fact, I think I will pin this on first. See where this is going to fall. Make sure that it's even, and then add the rest of the patches in, or just kind of have a plan. But it's almost done. This has been a really, really time-consuming project. Very time-consuming. I had no idea what I was getting into. I did not think it would take this long. It is a rather large garment. I usually do not have patience for projects this long. However, I'm loving the result, and I just hope that somebody else out there absolutely loves it and decides to purchase it, because it is gorgeous. I'm super proud of it. So, just a matter of getting it finished. Katrina Bell back for a follow-up on our previous story of the So Much Work project. It has been completed with physical and mental capabilities still intact. Let's see the reveal.